The first message arrived without sound. A dead signal, drifting in on a narrowband channel that had not been used in decades. No greeting code. No encryption handshake. Just static, threaded with a weak human carrier tone. Lieutenant Marachin stared at the waveform as it crawled across the display. "Sir," she said quietly, "this isn't a probe glitch." Admiral Elias Rourke was already standing behind her. He had not slept in 20 hours. The war room lights reflected off the glass table, pale and unforgiving. "Play it." The static cleared for half a second. "Anyone, please, this is Port Meridian, shields are." A scream cut off mid-breath. Then silence. The system identifier flashed. Epsilon Eridani Colony. Population, 1.4 billion. Rourke felt the room contract, as if gravity had increased by a fraction. Confirm source. Chin swallowed. Orbital relay debris pattern matches a kinetic saturation strike. Planetary scan shows surface vitrification. Sir, it's gone. Another console chimed. Then another. Signals stacked faster than analysts could tag them. Broken sentences. Half-formed pleas. Some ended in explosions. Others simply stopped. Earth's deep space receivers, designed for trade and diplomacy, were drowning in last words. "Route all incoming to archival," Rourke said. His voice was steady, almost detached. "Do not auto-filter." A junior officer hesitated. "Sir, there are children." "I said archive them," Rourke replied. "Every voice matters." Across the table, planetary models updated in real time. One colony after another dimmed from green to gray. Cities erased. Oceans boiled. Atmospheres stripped by precision weapons that left no radiation, no lingering poison. Just absence. This was not war. It was removal. An aide approached, eyes red. "Admiral, we've identified a pattern. Strike vectors align across 47 systems. Same fleet signature." Rourke nodded once. The Empire. They had called it a misunderstanding the first time. A border enforcement action the second. Humanity had accepted apologies, paid reparations, rerouted colonies away from sensitive regions. Always compromise. Always restraint. Now restraint lay scattered across space as ash. A private channel pinged. Priority black. Rourke already knew. He accepted the call. The face that appeared belonged to Director Hale of Colonial Affairs, but the man looked older than he had yesterday. "Elias, it's Arcadia." The words struck harder than any scream. "Say it." Hale's gaze dropped. "No survivors. The mantle cracked after orbital impact. We lost telemetry at 1800 hours. Arcadia. Agricultural world. Clear skies. Rourke's sister had loved it there. Said the sunsets made the stars look closer. "Understood," Rourke said. The channel closed. The room waited for something: anger, grief, collapse. None came. Rourke stood still, hands resting flat on the table, knuckles pale. "Admiral," Chin said softly, "there's an incoming transmission. Formal. High-band diplomatic frequency. Put it through." The image resolved into something tall and angular, draped in layered metallic robes. Its skin was the dull blue-gray of stone left too long in shadow. Multiple eyes focused on the camera, unblinking. "I am Executive Raquel," it said. Its voice carried no accent, no emotion. "By authority of the Galactic Empire, this message is recorded." Rourke leaned forward. "You've murdered billions." Raquel did not react. "Human expansion violated equilibrium thresholds. Corrective action has been applied." "Corrective," Chin whispered. "You will now comply," Raquel continued. "Earth will disarm its fleets, dismantle its orbital defenses, and accept vassal classification. Resistance will result in full extinction. You have 72 standard hours." Rourke studied the alien's eyes. "You destroyed unarmed worlds." "They were assets," Raquel replied. "No longer required." The transmission ended. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the war room erupted. They can't do this. We have treaties. If we surrender, at least Earth survives. Rourke raised a hand. Silence fell, not because of rank, but because of certainty. They didn't strike our fleets, he said. They didn't issue warnings. They didn't negotiate. A council representative shook her head. Elias, we cannot win a direct conflict. The Empire controls half the galaxy. Rourke tapped the table. Colony destruction timelines expanded, overlapping with trade routes, relief corridors, evacuation windows deliberately missed. They planned this for years. Surrender won't spare us. It will delay us. Delay what? Someone asked. Our turn, Rourke said. He straightened. They erased our colonies because they thought humanity was fragile. That Earth would fold without its periphery. Chen looked up. Sir, what are you proposing? Rourke met her gaze. That we stop pretending this is a political crisis. It's an extinction event. A heavy symbol illuminated on the central display. Locked. Red. Protocol Aegis Null. A doctrine buried so deep it required unanimous override to even view. Total mobilization. Research restrictions lifted. Command decentralization. Wartime autonomy for fleet commanders. The kind of plan nations drafted and prayed never to activate. One by one, council members authorized access. Fear gave way to grim clarity. Rourke exhaled slowly. Send a reply. To the Empire? Hale asked. Yes. Chen hesitated. What should it say? Rourke thought of Arcadia's sunsets. Of billions of voices now frozen in archives. Of an enemy that mistook patience for weakness. Say this, he said. Earth has received your message. We do not surrender. We remember. The signal launched into the dark. Somewhere beyond the edge of known space, the Galactic Empire would learn that humanity had finally stopped holding back. High Executive Raquel did not look at the stars when the reports arrived. He never did. The stars were constants, obedient points of light marking territories already decided. What mattered were numbers, probabilities, compliance curves. Human response window elapsed. An aide announced, its mandibles clicking softly. No surrender transmission received. Raquel tilted his head. Clarify. The planet designated Earth has neither disarmed nor requested arbitration. A faint ripple moved across the executor's secondary eyes. Then they are processing inevitability. He gestured, and a hollow field unfolded, displaying a simplified model of the human sphere. One world pulsed at the center, isolated and small. The outer rings, colonies, were gone. Cleanly removed. Efficient. Young species require time to accept loss, Raquel said. Grief masquerades as defiance. It resolves itself. Permission to escalate deterrent measures? The aide asked. Denied, Raquel replied. Excess force invites sympathy from observers. Earth will comply once hunger and fear align. Across the chamber, another official shifted. Executor, there is an anomaly. Raquel's gaze sharpened. Define. A logistics node in the Helix corridor has gone dark. No debris field consistent with reactor failure. Piracy? Unlikely. The station's defenses were intact. Sensor ghosts indicate adaptive penetration. Raquel considered this. A malfunction, then. Archive and reassign. The chamber returned to its quiet rhythm. For centuries, this cadence had never failed him. On Earth, quiet meant speed. The shipyards over Luna burned white with activity. Civilian docks had vanished beneath scaffolds and armored gantries. Old hulls were stripped to frames and rebuilt with unfamiliar geometries, angled plating, segmented heat sinks, weapon mounts that had never passed peacetime ethics boards. Admiral Rourke walked the catwalks without escort. Engineers nodded as he passed, hands blackened, eyes sharp with exhaustion and purpose. Admiral, Chief Designer Imani Okoye said, falling into step. We've integrated the learning cores. They'll rewrite firing solutions in real time. Rourke glanced down at a half-finished cruiser. How long until first deployment? 36 hours, she said. If we don't sleep. Then don't, he replied. What about counter-shielding? Okoye smiled, thin and fierce. We stopped trying to punch through. We taught the weapons to ask different questions. Rourke nodded. That was the key. Humanity had never won by matching strength. They survived by reframing problems. In the command nexus, fleet markers multiplied. Not massive armadas, clusters. Independent cells. Each with autonomy to adapt, disengage, vanish. Chen appeared beside him, tablet in hand. Task Force Atlas reports ready. How many ships? Rourke asked. 7. He allowed himself a breath. That will do. The Helix corridor had been chosen because it mattered and because it didn't. A transit spine feeding Empire shipyards 3 systems away. Well defended. Poorly imagined as vulnerable. Atlas emerged from folded space in silence. Hold emissions, Commander Reyes whispered. Let the corridor think. Empire's sensors swept past them, blind to profiles they had never catalogued. Atlas ships slid closer, their hulls absorbing stray scans, their cores humming with anticipation. Targets locked, Reyes said. Weapons green. Fire, she ordered. No thunder. No spectacle. The first shots were questions, packets of energy that mapped shield behavior, stress points, response delays. The second volley answered them. The station's shields flickered, confused. Power rerouted where it should not have. Structural rings buckled inward as if squeezed by invisible hands. Empire defense craft launched late and wrong. Atlas ships flowed between them, weapons adjusting with each exchange, growing sharper, faster. Objective complete, Reyes said as the logistics node tore itself apart. No survivors. Withdraw, Rourke ordered from Earth, watching the data stream. Leave nothing to study. Atlas vanished. Vracael stared at the update, displeasure creeping into his posture. Confirmed loss, Biade said. No salvage. No attackers identified. Vracael's voice cooled. Dispatch inquiry fleets. Increase patrol density. Executor, another official said. Additional nodes are reporting interference. Supply delays. Comms disruptions. Vracael turned slowly. Define additional. The number hovered between them. 7. He folded his hands. The humans have chosen spectacle. Earth chose silence. No broadcasts followed the strike. No declaration. The absence unsettled observers more than any threat. Rourke stood before the council, projections of disrupted corridors and stalled convoys behind him. We will not chase glory, he said. We will starve the machine. A delegate frowned. And when they retaliate? They will, Rourke agreed. But they won't understand how. They expect fleets. We give them shadows. Chen leaned in. Admiral, Empire media channels are blaming internal sabotage. Good, Rourke said. Let them argue with themselves. In the Empire's core, Vracael dismissed the notion of fear. But irritation lingered. Authorize limited purge, he said. Select a minor human asset. Demonstrate consequences. The aide hesitated. Executor, there are no remaining outer colonies. Vracael paused. Then choose a fleet, he said. Erase it. They tried. An Empire battle group intercepted what it thought was a human patrol. The engagement lasted 40 seconds. Human ships disengaged after disabling engines and command links. Not destroyed. Left drifting. The battle group limped home with stories that did not align. Weapons that learned. Targets that moved before firing solutions completed. Enemies that disengaged when victory was possible. Vracael listened to the debrief in silence. This is inefficient, he said finally. Yes, the commander replied. It is. For the first time in centuries, Vracael felt the faint, unwelcome pressure of uncertainty. On Earth, Rourke watched the same footage. They're testing us now, Chen said. Rourke clasped his hands behind his back. No. They're realizing. Realizing what? That this wasn't grief, he said. It was preparation. Beyond the war room glass, Earth turned, unaware and unafraid. The Empire had struck to end a species. Instead, it had taught humanity how to fight without limits. The declaration did not arrive wrapped in threats or ceremony. It was a single transmission, sent on every open frequency the Empire used to speak to its subjects. No music. No banners. Just a human voice, unfiltered and steady. This is Earth, Admiral Elias Rourke said. The extermination of our colonies ends today. Any force participating in the destruction of human life will be treated as a hostile entity. We are not seeking territory. We are ending the mechanism that made this possible. The signal ended. The galaxy inhaled. Within minutes, reaction fractured along predictable lines. Imperial channels dismissed it as theater. Vassal worlds went silent, their overseers unsure whether to suppress the message or erase it. Independent systems listened twice, then locked their doors and waited. On Earth, restraint vanished. Research vault sealed since humanity's first interstellar treaty opened with quiet authorization codes. Projects shelved for being too dangerous, too autonomous, too unpredictable were handed to teams who no longer asked permission. Ethical review boards dissolved into advisory roles. Speed replaced caution. Rourke stood at the center of controlled chaos, watching 100 streams at once. Fleet clusters moved like schools of fish, dispersing and reforming across star maps that updated by the second. Enemy response? He asked. Chen glanced up from her console. Delayed. They're still trying to classify our doctrine. Rourke allowed himself a thin smile. Good. Then they're already behind. The next wave did not target shipyards or fleets. It struck ledgers. Human task groups slipped into Empire-controlled systems and dismantled supply chains with surgical precision. Fuel depots failed inspection protocols they had never been tested against. Automated factories shut down when production algorithms were fed contradictions. Credits froze mid-transfer as human code rewrote transaction histories faster than oversight AIs could adapt. Entire sectors stalled without a single shot fired. On the bridge of the carrier Resolute, Commander Reyes watched Empire escorts drift powerless, their drives locked by commands they believed were internal. We could finish them, her tactical officer said. No, Reyes replied. Disable and mark. Let them tell the story. The stories spread. Pilots spoke of human ships that anticipated maneuvers before thrusters ignited. Gunners described weapons that adjusted between salvos, changing frequency, mass, and vector with unnerving intuition. Boarding teams found no predictable layouts, no standardized corridors. Every vessel was different, designed by crews who had been given freedom to improvise. Vracael listened as the reports accumulated. This is disorder, he said, more to himself than the chamber. They have abandoned structure. Executor, an aide replied carefully. They appear to be leveraging it. Vracael dismissed the notion. Chaos collapses under scale. But scale was becoming difficult to maintain. Then the first liberation occurred. The world-designated Carcel had been an Empire labor hub for centuries. Its native species, small-framed and bioluminescent, were engineered for low-light mining. Compliance was enforced through orbital threat and generational debt. Human ships arrived without announcement. They disabled orbital platforms in seconds, their weapons bypassing defenses with unnerving accuracy. Surface garrisons surrendered when their command net dissolved, replaced by human language evacuation instructions translated flawlessly into native dialects. Rourke watched footage of the aftermath. Carcel citizens stood beneath open skies, blinking against unfamiliar stars. Some wept. Others simply stared. They're asking why we helped, Chen said. What did you tell them? Rourke asked. That we remember what it's like to be owned. Within days, Carcel broadcast its own message across neighboring systems. Others followed. The Empire's narrative, that humanity was a violent anomaly, fractured under the weight of evidence. Vracael's council argued openly now. This approach destabilizes tributary confidence, one official warned. Subjects are beginning to defect. Then make an example, another demanded. Erase one of these liberated worlds. Vracael remained silent, eyes fixed on the tactical overlay. Human movements formed patterns only in hindsight. Every attempt to draw them into decisive engagement failed. They struck where the Empire was rigid, vanished where it was strong. This species is not fighting for expansion, Vracael said slowly. They are eliminating vulnerability. A commander leaned forward. Executor, that implies that they will not stop, Vracael finished. Because survival, once threatened, does not negotiate. The Empire answered with force. A consolidated armada pushed toward the human-controlled Helios Reach, overwhelming local defenses through sheer mass. For the first time, human fleets did not retreat. Rourke stood as reports flooded in. They're committing everything, Chen said. This is their attempt to break us. Then let them, Rourke replied. Authorize adaptive protocols. The battle unfolded unlike any before it. Human ships did not hold lines. They weaved through the engagement, trading space for time, learning with every exchange. Weapons shifted mid-flight. Defensive fields bent rather than resisted, redirecting energy into systems the Empire had never considered vulnerable. When the Armada began to lose cohesion, human forces tightened. Not to destroy, but to dismantle. Command vessels fell silent. Support ships drifted. What remained withdrew in disarray. The Helios Reach held. News traveled faster than fleets. Across the Empire, governors declared neutrality. Overseers vanished. Systems once bound by fear began negotiating passage with human envoys who made no demands beyond non-aggression. Vracael received the final update in private. A core manufacturing world has fallen, the aide said. Minimal resistance. Local leadership defected. Vracael closed his eyes. For the first time since assuming his title, he reviewed historical archives not to confirm precedent, but to search for warning. He found none. On Earth, Rourke watched the same star fade from imperial red to human white. They're learning, Chen said quietly. About us. Rourke shook his head. Too late. Outside the command center, Earth's cities glowed beneath orbital shields never meant to be tested at this scale. Humanity had crossed a threshold, not into dominance, but into clarity. They were no longer reacting. They were reshaping the battlefield until extinction itself became impossible. The Galactic Empire did not fall with a roar. It fractured in silence. Star systems once locked in obedient alignment drifted out of formation as governors stopped responding to commands that no longer made sense. Fleets waited for orders that never arrived. Data couriers carried contradictory directives, some stamped with authority that had already been executed. High Executive Vracael stood alone in the command sanctum, watching his domain unravel in measured increments. This was not chaos as he understood it. Chaos implied randomness. What he saw was deliberate subtraction. They are not dismantling us evenly, he said to the empty chamber. They are carving. The last loyal strategist hesitated before answering. Humans avoid symbolic targets. They disable coordination. They leave structures intact but unusable. Vracael turned slowly. Because they intend us to remember. The warning came too late. Human intelligence identified the Empire's final option before it was enacted. A desperation strike, hidden behind layers of automated authorization, designed centuries earlier for a scenario no one believed possible. A weapon meant to erase planets, not conquer them. Earth. Rourke received the alert without surprise. They're reaching for annihilation, Chen said, her voice tight. Full spectrum approach. Multiple vectors. Expected, Rourke replied. Activate planetary lattice. Across Earth's orbit, defense arrays unfolded like petals of light. Satellites repositioned, their trajectories intersecting into overlapping kill zones. Civilian traffic vanished beneath the shields. Cities dimmed as energy rerouted toward survival. The first Empire projectiles arrived faster than predicted. They never reached the surface. Human interceptors tore them apart, fragments burning harmlessly in the upper atmosphere. Secondary waves followed, some adapting mid-course, others switching payloads. The lattice flexed, absorbed, redirected. One breach opened above the Pacific. Rourke watched the trajectory adjust too late. "Divert Atlas Group," he ordered. "They won't make it," Chen said. "They will," Rourke replied. They volunteered. Atlas Group burned its drives beyond safe limits, slamming into the incoming weapon with no attempt at retreat. The detonation lit the sky like a second sun, brief and contained. Earth held. In the quiet that followed, billions exhaled as one. Chen closed her eyes. "Casualties confirmed." Rourke nodded. "Record their names." He turned back to the star map, where a single marker pulsed at the heart of what remained of the Empire. The command nexus. Not a city. Not a world. A moving construct designed to rule from nowhere. "Prepare the final push," he said. The human fleet did not advance as a unified mass. It converged from dozens of vectors, slipping through gaps created by years of systematic disruption. Empire defenses activated too slowly, responding to threats that no longer existed. Vracael felt the impact before the alarms sounded. Power fluctuations rippled through the nexus. Gravity stuttered. "They have reached us," the strategist whispered. Vracael straightened his ceremonial armor. "Open a channel." The image of Admiral Rourke appeared, standing in a room devoid of ornament. No banners. No insignia beyond a simple emblem on his collar. "This ends now," Vracael said. Rourke studied him with an expression that held no triumph. "It ended when you decided extermination was policy. You could have accepted order," Vracael replied. "Your species chose defiance." "No," Rourke said. "We chose memory." Vracael's eyes narrowed. "You dismantle an empire and call it justice." "We dismantle a mechanism," Rourke corrected. "You made survival conditional. We removed the condition." The Nexus shuddered again. Systems failed in cascading layers, each dependent on another already gone. Vracael felt something unfamiliar press against his thoughts. Not fear. Realization. "You will inherit a galaxy that fears you," he said. Rourke shook his head. "No. We're leaving it one that understands us." The channel closed. Human boarding units moved through the Nexus with efficiency that bordered on reverence. No unnecessary destruction. No looting. Command nodes were isolated. Control cores shut down one by one. Vracael remained in place as the final seal unlocked. Rourke entered alone. For a moment neither spoke. "You never asked what it cost us," Vracael said quietly. Rourke met his gaze. "We know what it cost us." The executor lowered his head, a gesture that had never before been recorded. "Then do it." Rourke turned away. "Detain him. He stands trial where history can see." As the Nexus powered down, human fleets transmitted a single message across every reachable system. "The war is over. We claim no territory. We demand no tribute. Any force that attempts extermination will meet the same response. This is not a threat. It is precedent." Then the fleets withdrew. One by one, human ships vanished into folded space, leaving behind intact worlds and a vacuum where absolute authority once stood. Earth resumed its rotation beneath calm skies. Shields dimmed. Cities reignited. Memorials filled with names that would never fade. Rourke stood on a balcony overlooking the planet, the weight finally settling into his bones. Chen joined him. "It's done." "Yes," he said. "And what comes next?" Rourke watched the sun rise along the curve of Earth. "We rebuild. We remember. And we make sure no one ever mistakes our silence for weakness again." Beyond the stars, the galaxy adjusted to a new constant. Humanity still existed. And that, it had learned, was enough.